Did you know that nearly 48 million Americans get sick each year from foodborne illnesses, with over 3,000 of them dying, many of whom are seniors? According to the CDC, older adults are at a significantly higher risk due to their immune systems being weaker as they age. What's truly terrifying is that many of these illnesses start right in the fridge. Yes, the very appliance we trust to keep our food fresh and safe could be slowly turning certain everyday foods into health hazards. In fact, new studies reveal that improperly storing certain foods in the refrigerator can increase your risk of food poisoning, cause nutrient loss, and even trigger dangerous chemical reactions. And the worst part? Most people have no idea. If you've been storing certain fruits, vegetables, or pantry staples in your fridge without a second thought, you might be setting yourself up for a disaster. The number one food on this list is especially alarming. Not only does it lose its nutritional value, but it can also develop harmful compounds when chilled. Stay with us until the end, because what you learn could literally save your health or even your life. Before we begin, let us know in the comments below where you're watching from. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more insights like this. Now let's dive right in. Number 9. Potatoes. There's a common kitchen habit that many of us are guilty of, throwing a bag of potatoes into the fridge to keep them fresh. After all, the fridge is where we store almost everything to make it last longer, right? Well, what if I told you that storing potatoes in the fridge doesn't preserve them, but instead turns them into a potential health risk? It sounds unbelievable, but it's true. When you put raw potatoes in cold temperatures, something strange and insidious happens inside them. At the cellular level, the starches in the potatoes start converting into sugars at an unnaturally rapid pace. Now, that in itself might not seem like a big deal, but it's what happens next that should make you think twice before popping your potatoes in the fridge again. When you cook or bake these chilled potatoes, whether you're making crispy roasted potatoes or mashed ones, the real danger reveals itself. The sugars that formed during refrigeration interact with amino acids in the potatoes. This chemical reaction leads to the production of a substance called acrylamide, which, while it might not be something you've heard of in your daily life, has been shown to be a potential carcinogen in animal studies. Worse, scientists are still investigating the effects of acrylamide on humans, making it a cause for concern. But the dangers don't stop there. The texture of these refrigerated potatoes also changes in a way that you might not even notice right away. The once firm, hearty flesh of a potato begins to soften, becoming mushy and grainy. Not only that, but it starts to darken due to oxidation, and the once nutritious spud loses some of its vital nutrients in the process. When you cut into them, you may notice that the color is a little off, perhaps an unappealing dark hue that wasn't there when they were fresh. If you've ever roasted potatoes that tasted unexpectedly sweet or had a strange texture, now you know the fridge might be to blame. Imagine you've planned a cozy dinner. You've had a busy day, but the thought of hot, crispy potatoes on your plate makes everything feel right in the world. You carefully chop the potatoes, seasoning them just the way you like. But as they roast, something's off. They're not as crispy as usual. They're oddly sweet, almost cloying. The texture is wrong, and you can't help but wonder what went wrong. The problem could be that innocent-looking fridge you've been using as your storage solution. In truth, potatoes should be kept in a cool, dark, dry place, not the damp, cold confines of the refrigerator. A pantry or cupboard works best, where they'll stay firm, flavorful, and free from the dangerous transformation they undergo when chilled. If you got a bag of potatoes tucked away in your fridge right now, it's time to take them out. They may look harmless, but inside, they could be turning into something you'd rather not consume. So, next time you're about to grab a bag of potatoes, remember, they're not just a humble kitchen staple. They're a bit of a tricky character in the food world, and if you're not careful, they can go from comforting to potentially toxic. Let this be a reminder that sometimes, even the most familiar things can hold unexpected dangers when we don't treat them right. Number 8. Bread. Bread. It's the heart of so many comforting meals, the kind that bring us back to simpler times, whether it's a warm slice with butter or a hearty sandwich for lunch. For many seniors, bread is a staple always found in the kitchen. It's familiar, reliable, and often used in countless ways. But there's something about this kitchen essential that most of us get wrong. We may think that storing bread in the fridge is a smart way to keep it fresh for longer, but in reality, it's one of the worst things you can do. Let me take you through why that seemingly harmless habit might be ruining your bread and why it's worth reconsidering. Imagine for a moment, you've just bought a fresh loaf of bread. It's soft, with that perfect, airy texture that makes you crave it right away. But days later, you notice it's starting to get a little dry, tough, and crumbly. You could have sworn it was just as soft when you bought it. So what happened? Well, this is the magic, or rather, the science of retrogradation. Retrogradation is a complicated term that simply means the starch molecules in the bread start to crystallize when exposed to cold temperatures. It happens quickly. Within hours, those soft, pillowy slices that you once enjoyed become stiff and stale. What was once a light and fluffy texture is now tough and dry, leaving your bread nearly inedible for things like sandwiches or even a nice slice of toast. Now, the fridge isn't just responsible for this transformation. There's another side effect that's even worse. As bread loses moisture for being exposed to cold air, the fridge becomes an ideal breeding ground for mold. You might not notice it immediately, but mold tends to creep in quietly. And here's the kicker. Some types of mold can produce mycotoxins, substances that are harmful to health, especially for older adults whose immune systems may not be as strong. Imagine taking a bite of bread, unaware that it's already been tainted. That's not just a stale sandwich you're dealing with. It's a potential health risk. But before you panic, don't worry. There's good news. It turns out that freezing bread is a far better option if you're looking to keep it fresh. Freezing halts the staling process entirely, and it prevents mold from growing while maintaining the texture of the bread. It's simple. Store bread at room temperature for a few days. Just keep it in a bread box or a sealed container. And for any loaves that you can't consume within that time frame, pop them in the freezer. This way, you get to enjoy fresh bread whenever you want without worrying about it becoming stale or moldy. And best of all, freezing bread doesn't steal its life or flavor. It's easy to overlook the small details like how we store everyday items, but when it comes to bread, the fridge isn't your friend. It may seem convenient in the moment, but the damage it does over time is more significant than you might realize. So next time you reach for that loaf of bread, think twice before you open the fridge. The best way to keep it fresh is not by cooling it down, but by letting it stay at room temperature or freezing it for long-term storage. It's simple, effective, and best of all, it ensures that you can enjoy bread just the way it was meant to be, soft, fresh, and full of life. Now, every time you bite into a slice, you'll know that a little extra care in how you store it can make all the difference in preserving the comfort and joy that comes with a humble loaf of bread. Number 7, onions. Imagine this. You've just finished chopping an onion for dinner. Its sharp, pungent aroma lingering in the air. You've got the perfect recipe in mind. A savory dish that requires just the right amount of this vegetable to add depth and flavor. But as you're cleaning up, you wonder, should I put this leftover onion in the fridge? You've heard mixed things, and it seems convenient to store it there, right? It turns out, this small decision can lead to some surprising and unpleasant outcomes. Onions, though common and humble in many kitchens, come with an unspoken story, a delicate balance between nature and preservation that most of us unknowingly disrupt. You might be surprised to find onions on the list of foods that shouldn't be refrigerated. It seems so logical to throw them into the cold, secure environment of your fridge, right? But that's a mistake that many of us make, often without realizing the hidden consequences. Onions, in their natural state, come with a beautifully protective layer, their papery skin. It acts like a guardian, shielding the onion from the outside world, keeping moisture at bay, and maintaining its flavor and firmness. This skin is an onion's safeguard, a subtle yet important feature in its journey from the farm to your plate. But when you place your onion in the fridge, something changes. That delicate balance between moisture and preservation is disrupted. In the cold, moist environment of your refrigerator, onions undergo a transformation. The moisture that they so carefully repel begins to seep in. And for a cut onion, this is even worse. When you cut an onion, you expose the inner flesh, the heart of the onion, to the air and, most importantly, to the refrigerator's humid atmosphere. What was once a crisp, firm texture begins to soften, becoming mushy. The pungent, vibrant flavor that once filled the air becomes dull, off-putting. You may notice it becomes less like the crisp, fresh ingredient you once loved, and more like something unappetizing, unrecognizable even. And worse still, mold begins to creep in, further degrading the onion's integrity. But the problems don't end with texture and flavor. There's another, much more insidious issue: odor transfer. Anyone who's stored onions in the fridge knows that smell: sharp, overpowering, and oddly pervasive. What you might not realize is that this is due to sulfur compounds released by the onion in the cold. These compounds break down faster in the chilly environment, and as they do, they spread. You've probably experienced the odd phenomenon of your butter tasting strangely onion-flavored, or your fruit taking on an unexpected sharpness. It's not just in your head. Your fridge is acting like a sponge, soaking up and transferring the onion's strong essence to every other item in its proximity. But here's the kicker: there's also a risk to your health. Storing cut onions improperly, especially in the fridge, creates an ideal environment for harmful bacteria to grow. While the myths around onions absorbing toxins may be exaggerated, one thing is true: an onion that's exposed to moisture, like one kept in the fridge after being cut, can become a breeding ground for microbes. These bacteria can contaminate other foods and even lead to foodborne illnesses, something no one wants to deal with, especially not in the comfort of their own home. Now, before you panic and toss every onion out of your fridge, here's the good news: it's not too late to change the way you store them. The solution is simple, and it doesn't require drastic measures. Whole onions, the ones still wrapped in their protective skin, should never be stored in the fridge. Instead, they should be kept in a dry, dark place with plenty of ventilation, like a pantry or a cupboard. This environment helps preserve their natural qualities, maintaining their flavor and texture until you're ready to use them. For cut onions, the rules are slightly different. You can store them in the fridge, but make sure they are tightly sealed to prevent the strong odor from escaping. However, don't hold on to them for too long. Ideally, use the leftover onion within a day or two. This ensures that the onion stays fresh and doesn't have time to become a moldy, bacteria-infested mess. So, the next time you're about to pop that onion into the fridge, think twice. While it might seem like the easy solution, storing onions properly will help preserve their taste, texture, and, believe it or not, your other food's integrity too. The humble onion, with all its quirks and complexities, has more to teach us than we might have realized. It's a small reminder that even the most ordinary things in life deserve a little care and attention. And who knows, by following these simple steps, you might just find that your next onion is fresher, tastier, and free from that overpowering smell that tends to linger in your kitchen long after dinner has been served. Number 6. Tomatoes, a love story spoiled by the cold. There was once a time I believed I was doing the right thing, tucking my tomatoes gently into the refrigerator, thinking I was protecting them, preserving them, giving them a longer life. It felt like a responsible move, a caring gesture. Little did I know, I was slowly draining the very soul out of them. Tomatoes, you see, are tropical by birth. They're warm weather darlings, basking under golden sunlight, ripening in gentle warmth, their flavors deepening and sweetening with each passing day. But the fridge? The fridge is their enemy in disguise. The moment a tomato enters that cold, sterile environment, everything begins to change. The natural enzymes, those magical compounds responsible for ripening, go dormant, frozen in time. But it's not just the ripening that halts. It's the flavor that fades. The vibrant, tangy sweet notes vanish. The aroma disappears. What's left is a ghost of what once was a bland, watery shell of a fruit, robbed of its essence. And then there's the texture. Oh, the texture. That firm yet yielding bite. The juicy pop that dances on your tongue? Gone. replaced by something sad and unrecognizable, mealy, rubbery, as if the tomato itself had given up. But the heartbreak doesn't end there. Cold temperatures don't just ruin taste and texture. They rob the tomato of its health-giving power. Vitamin C, that immune-boosting treasure, quietly deteriorates in the chill. And as if to signal its slow decline, the skin begins to pucker and wrinkle, betraying an appearance of age before its time. Even when it's still technically fresh, it wears the tired face of something forgotten. It's a tragic irony. In trying to preserve the tomato, we hasten its ruin. But there's hope. A better way. A return to what tomatoes crave. Store them at room temperature. Let them breathe. Keep them out of direct sunlight. And, if you can, place them stem side down to help them retain their precious moisture. When they ripen fully, when their skin glows and their scent makes your mouth water, use them. Slice them. Roast them. Turn them into sauce or salad. Celebrate them. And if they've gone a little too far, don't be afraid to cook them into something wonderful. Just don't commit the cold-hearted sin of refrigeration. Because tomatoes, they deserve better. And so do you. Number 5, garlic. Garlic, the humble yet mighty bulb that has been a staple in kitchens for centuries. Revered not only for its bold flavor, but also for its remarkable health benefits. From boosting the immune system to lowering blood pressure, garlic has earned its place as one of nature's most potent remedies. But what if I told you that one common practice in many households could actually turn this miracle food into something harmful? Stripping it of its goodness? Let's dive into the tale of garlic's secret life. A story that begins with a simple mistake many of us make: refrigerating garlic. It's easy to think that storing garlic in the fridge might keep it fresh longer, right? After all, the fridge is where we keep most of our perishables. But garlic, in all its glory, is not a fan of the cold. When placed in the chilly confines of the fridge, garlic's natural preservation mechanisms begin to break down. You see, garlic bulbs are designed to last for weeks, sometimes even months, when stored at room temperature, provided they're kept in a dry, cool, and well-ventilated space. That's how garlic has survived centuries of use, and it's why it doesn't need refrigeration to stay fresh. However, when you put garlic in the fridge, things start to go awry. The moisture from the cold air interacts with the garlic in unexpected ways. The cloves begin to sprout prematurely. Instead of remaining firm and flavorful, they soften, turning bitter and rubbery. The pungent bite we've come to love in garlic begins to fade, replaced by a harsh and unpleasant flavor that can completely ruin a dish. But the real danger doesn't just lie in the taste. As garlic sprouts and its chemical makeup deteriorates, it also loses one of its most important health-boosting compounds, allicin. Allicin is the compound that gives garlic its signature scent and taste, but it's also responsible for many of its medicinal benefits, such as reducing inflammation, enhancing heart health, and supporting the immune system. When garlic is refrigerated and left to sprout, these benefits diminish, leaving you with little more than a shadow of the garlic you intended to use. The risks don't stop there. There's an even darker side to improper garlic storage, one that many people are unaware of. You've probably seen recipes that call for minced or chopped garlic preserved in oil. It seems like a simple way to add flavor to a dish, but this practice can be dangerously risky if done wrong. When garlic is stored in oil, particularly at room temperature or in the fridge, it can become a breeding ground for a dangerous bacteria known as Clostridium botulinum. This bacteria produces botulinum toxin, the cause of botulism, a rare but potentially deadly illness. Imagine, without even realizing it, you could be creating the perfect environment for a toxic bacteria to thrive just by storing garlic in oil improperly. The FDA has issued warnings about this very issue, cautioning against the practice unless garlic is properly acidified or refrigerated. And yet, this simple mistake is often made in kitchens everywhere, where a well-meaning home cook unknowingly prepares a potentially lethal scenario. So what's the solution? How can we continue to enjoy the full power of garlic without risking our health? It's all about proper storage. The best way to store whole garlic bulbs is in a mesh bag or basket in a cool, dry place in your pantry. The key is to keep it ventilated, allowing the garlic to breathe. If you've chopped or minced garlic, use it quickly. And if you plan to store it, keep it in vinegar or lemon juice to lower the risk of bacteria growth. Garlic stored in this way will retain its flavor and its medicinal qualities, without the risk of turning into a health hazard. The lesson here is clear. Don't let the fridge rob your garlic of its power. And more importantly, don't let the seemingly innocent act of storing garlic in oil turn into a hidden danger in your kitchen. Garlic has so much to offer, from its robust flavor to its countless health benefits. But like any powerful ingredient, it must be handled with care. So, the next time you reach for a bulb of garlic, remember this tale. Treat it with the respect it deserves, store it properly, and it will reward you with all of its wonderful, potent goodness. But if you ever find yourself tempted to refrigerate it, remember, sometimes the coldest places hide the most dangerous secrets. Number 4, coffee. There's something about the first sip of coffee in the morning that just feels like a warm embrace, a comforting ritual that sets the tone for the day ahead. For many of us, that deep, rich aroma and full-bodied flavor is more than just a wake-up call. It's a beloved part of our daily lives. But imagine if that cup of coffee, which you've come to cherish, suddenly tasted flat, bitter, or even stale. It could have been ruined by something as simple as the way it was stored. And surprisingly, one of the worst places to store your precious coffee beans or grounds is the refrigerator. You might be thinking, wait, isn't that where I keep all my food to preserve it? Yes, the fridge does wonders for fruits, vegetables, and leftovers, but when it comes to coffee, it's not a good fit. Coffee, whether in whole bean or ground form, is a surprisingly delicate food. It's incredibly sensitive to moisture, light, and even the faintest of odors. In fact, coffee has a particular property that makes it vulnerable to the conditions inside your fridge. It's hygroscopic. This means it absorbs moisture and odors from its surroundings like a sponge. Picture your coffee sitting next to a leftover salad or a ripe apple. Those smells and tastes will inevitably seep into your beans, leaving you with a brew that's anything but the satisfying cup you hoped for. But it's not just about the flavors getting muddied. The cold temperature of the fridge does a number on your coffee as well. When coffee is exposed to cold and moisture, condensation begins to form. This results in clumping, which isn't just a texture problem. It also accelerates the staling process. The oils that make your coffee so rich and flavorful are highly sensitive to the cold. And when they're exposed to this damp environment, they degrade much more quickly. These oils, particularly chlorogenic acids, are not only responsible for the distinctive aroma and taste of coffee, but they're also packed with antioxidants that contribute to your heart and brain health. When stored improperly, these beneficial compounds break down, leaving you with a cup of coffee that's bitter, lackluster, and far from the vibrant brew you once enjoyed. It's a shame, really, because coffee has so much to offer, beyond its delicious taste and invigorating effects. Coffee is a source of health benefits when stored and brewed properly. So while it's something as simple as improper storage rob you of the full experience, instead of letting your coffee meet its untimely demise in the fridge, consider giving it the care it deserves. The best way to keep your coffee fresh, flavorful, and full of those heart-healthy antioxidants is by storing it at room temperature in a dark, cool place. An opaque, airtight container is ideal as it protects your coffee from light, air, and moisture. A cabinet or pantry that's away from heat sources is perfect. By following these simple steps, you'll ensure that your coffee stays fresh longer and that each cup you brew brings you back to that first glorious sip. So the next time you reach for that bag of beans or ground coffee, remember this: a little care and storage goes a long way. Your coffee deserves more than just being shoved into the fridge with the leftovers. It deserves a place where it can stay fresh, aromatic, and full of the health benefits that make it so much more than just a morning pick-me-up. After all, a good cup of coffee is not just about the taste. It's about the experience, the warmth, the comfort, and the little moments of joy it brings into your day. Keep it fresh and let that joy linger a little longer. Number 3, Honey. There's something about honey that feels almost magical. Isn't there? The golden glow, the sweetness that's both rich and comforting, and the way it seems to hold the essence of summer flowers in every drop. Honey, as we know it, is more than just a sweetener. It's a gift from nature that has been cherished for thousands of years. But what if I told you that there's a mistake many of us make with honey that could actually strip it of its magical qualities? Yes, it's true. Honey should never be refrigerated. This might come as a surprise, especially for those of us who've grown up storing honey in the fridge to keep it fresh. After all, the refrigerator is our go-to place for preserving everything from leftovers to fruits. So why would honey be any different? Well, here's the thing. Storing honey in the fridge can actually make it worse. It's a simple oversight that can turn the liquid gold into something grainy and unpleasant. You see, honey is naturally a remarkable food. It's one of the few foods in the world that never spoils. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are still perfectly edible. That's because honey has a low moisture content and high acidity, making it inhospitable to the bacteria and microbes that cause other foods to spoil. But when you store honey in the fridge, something surprising happens. The cold temperature causes the honey to crystallize, and not in a pleasant way. It turns from a smooth, pourable liquid into a hard, grainy mass that's difficult to scoop, spread, or use in recipes. At first, it might seem like a simple texture change, but there's more to it. Crystallization in honey is actually a sign that something's gone awry. It's a sign that the natural preservation process, what makes honey so unique, has been disrupted. When the fridge cools down the honey, it traps air pockets inside the jar. Each time you open and close the jar, moisture gets introduced into the honey. And moisture, as it turns out, is honey's worst enemy. The addition of moisture can lead to fermentation, turning your once pristine jar of honey into something sour and off-putting. But that's not all. The real problem begins when the moisture invites microbial growth. Under normal circumstances, the low water content and acidity of honey act as a natural barrier against bacteria and other harmful microorganisms. But once that protective balance is disturbed by the cold, the honey becomes a potential breeding ground for bacteria. This is why honey, when refrigerated, can go from a superfood with health benefits to a potential health risk. It's hard to imagine something as pure as honey going bad, but refrigeration, ironically, weakens the very qualities that make it such a remarkable food. It's almost as if the fridge is working against nature's design, turning honey into something that no longer mirrors its original, life-sustaining form. So what's the solution? It's simple. Keep your honey at room temperature, stored in a tightly sealed jar, away from direct sunlight and heat. A cool, dry pantry is the perfect spot. By doing this, you'll preserve the smooth, spreadable texture that makes honey such a joy to use. More importantly, you'll protect its natural flavor and all the beneficial compounds that have made honey a time-honored remedy for centuries. From soothing sore throats to serving as a natural sweetener in your tea, honey can continue to offer its many gifts, just as it has for generations. It's a small change in how we treat this humble, golden nectar, but it's one that ensures we get to enjoy honey in all its natural, unspoiled glory. So, next time you reach for that jar, remember, the fridge might be the right place for leftovers, but it's no friend to honey. Number 2, bananas. Bananas. Simple, yellow, and often a go-to snack for many, especially seniors. There's a reason they're a staple in kitchens worldwide. They're packed with potassium, which helps regulate blood pressure, and they're easy to digest, making them gentle on the stomach, especially for the older generation. But as much as bananas are beloved for their many health benefits, there's one mistake that so many of us make, unknowingly, that ruins the very essence of these fruits. It's something as simple as storing them in the fridge. Picture this. You just bought a bunch of ripe bananas. They're a rich, inviting shade of yellow, their smooth skin unmarred, promising the perfect balance of sweetness and nutrition. You think to yourself, I'll pop these in the fridge to make them last longer. But that, my friend, is the beginning of silent disaster. Refrigerating bananas, especially before they've fully ripened, completely disrupts their natural chemistry. Bananas are tropical fruits, accustomed to the warmth of the sun and the gentle touch of humid climates. Their internal structure is designed for warmth, and when exposed to cold, that delicate balance is thrown off. The refrigerator's chilly air causes the bananas to stop ripening, keeping them forever in a hard, unyielding state. No matter how long they sit there, they'll never soften to the perfect texture. And their flavor? Bland, tasteless, almost like a shadow of their former self. The skin, once bright and vibrant, begins to change. What once was a rich yellow fades into a dull gray, or worse, a haunting black. That dark color? It's the telltale sign that the banana has suffered what's known as cold injury. But the damage doesn't stop there. Bananas are not just a quick, easy snack. They're a source of antioxidants, compounds like dopamine and catechins, that offer a multitude of health benefits, particularly for seniors. These antioxidants work tirelessly in our bodies, fighting off oxidative stress, supporting brain function, and promoting overall well-being. When bananas are kept in the fridge, however, those antioxidants are destroyed, and with them, the very essence of what makes bananas so good for you. Imagine a senior, someone who's looking to take care of their heart and mind. They rely on the natural benefits that bananas offer. They might not know that chilling them renders those benefits almost entirely useless. It's heartbreaking to think that something as simple as improper storage could rob them of this vital support. And doesn't end there. If you make the mistake of refrigerating an overripe banana, you're setting yourself up for even more trouble. The moisture inside the peel, which was once a natural part of the ripening process, now becomes a breeding ground for mold, particularly near the stem, instead of extending the life of the fruit. The cold encourages a faster breakdown, and you might find yourself dealing with something much worse than just a ruined snack, a potential health risk. So what's the answer? How can we avoid this tragic fate for our beloved bananas? The solution is simpler than you might think. Bananas should be stored at room temperature. It's that easy. Ideally, place them in a fruit bowl where air can circulate around them, allowing them to ripen naturally. If you have an abundance of ripe bananas that you can't consume in time, freeze them. But freeze them properly, peeled and placed in a container, ready to be blended into smoothies or used in baking. The freezer can be a friend to bananas, but the fridge? Absolutely not. When it comes to bananas, the key is to remember that they thrive in warmth. So next time you're tempted to chill them in the fridge, remember this simple truth. Doing so won't prolong their life. It will just turn them into mushy, nutrient-deprived fruit that no one wants to eat. Instead, let them ripen at their own pace, naturally, and enjoy the full spectrum of their flavor and health benefits. Number 1. Olive oil. In the world of heart-healthy foods, olive oil stands as a shining example of versatility and vitality. This liquid gold is a key ingredient in the Mediterranean diet, celebrated for its array of beneficial fats and rich antioxidants that support heart health and enhance the flavors of countless dishes. Yet, despite its many benefits, there's a common mistake many people, especially seniors, make when it comes to storing this precious oil. They refrigerate it, unaware that doing so may compromise its integrity and even its health benefits. Imagine, for a moment, a kitchen where olive oil is a constant companion, a bottle resting on the counter, always ready to be drizzled over fresh salads or to gently saute vegetables. It's a symbol of health and vitality, a reliable addition to every meal. But then, on a whim or out of caution, the bottle is placed in the fridge. At first, nothing seems amiss. But over time, the oil begins to change, slowly at first, then more noticeably. The clear, golden liquid turns cloudy, and a slight solidification creeps in, leaving behind a substance that feels more like wax than the silky oil it once was. This change, known as solidification, occurs when the fatty acids in the olive oil crystallize due to the cold. While the oil itself isn't immediately dangerous, the real danger lurks beneath the surface. Every time the oil is moved from the cold fridge to a warmer kitchen, its chemical structure, is put under strain. This constant shift in temperature accelerates oxidation, a process where the oil begins to break down. And as it oxidizes, free radicals are created, harmful compounds that can wreak havoc on the body, particularly in older adults. For seniors, the implications of oxidized olive oil can be more than just a slight inconvenience. Oxidation can contribute to increased joint inflammation, a common issue for those dealing with arthritis or other inflammatory conditions. Additionally, it can lead to digestive distress, a problem many older adults face as their digestive systems become more sensitive over time. While the olive oil might still technically be safe to consume, its once powerful health benefits are significantly diminished. The physical changes to the oil also present practical challenges. When refrigerated, olive oil becomes more difficult to pour. The thickened consistency makes it harder to measure out just the right amount, leading to spills, messes, and perhaps worse, overuse. This added oil can contribute unnecessary calories to a diet that may already be rich in fats, undermining the heart-healthy intentions that brought the oil into the kitchen in the first place. And then there's the flavor. Olive oil is prized not only for its health benefits, but also for its distinct taste, fruity, peppery, and sometimes even a bit grassy. These nuances are what make olive oil such a delightful addition to meals. But when chilled, those flavors are muted, lost in the cold. The oil becomes less vibrant, less aromatic, and ultimately, less enjoyable. So, what can be done to preserve olive oil's benefits and flavor? The answer lies in proper storage. Instead of placing the bottle in the refrigerator, store it in a cool, dark place, away from heat sources like the stove or direct sunlight. A dark glass bottle or a metal container will protect the oil from light, which can also cause oxidation. Stored this way, high-quality olive oil can maintain its flavor and health benefits for up to 2 years from the bottling date. For those who cherish the heart-healthy qualities of olive oil, it's important to remember that while refrigeration may seem like a good idea to preserve its shelf life, it's actually doing more harm than good. Instead, take a few extra moments to store your olive oil correctly, and you'll continue to enjoy its rich taste and healthful properties for months to come, just as it was intended. This small but significant change in how you handle olive oil can make all the difference, not just in your meals, but in your overall well-being. Now that you're aware of the foods you should never refrigerate, it's time to rethink your kitchen habits. Start by organizing your pantry and fridge more thoughtfully. Keep tropical fruits like bananas and avocados out of the fridge until they're ripe. Store potatoes and onions in cool, dark, and dry places. Keep your bread at room temperature or freeze it to prevent staling. Honey, coffee, garlic, tomatoes, and olive oil should all be stored wisely to preserve their flavor and health benefits. Taking a few moments to rearrange your kitchen could save you from the hidden dangers lurking in your fridge. So, what changes will you make starting today? We want to hear from you. Have you been refrigerating any of these foods without realizing the risks? What's the first change you'll make in your kitchen? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. We'd love to hear your experiences and advice. Thanks for watching, and stay healthy.